7. Silent dark, chosen ones who fight demons to protect the earth. Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, not with eyes, but with an energy so ancient it stirs your bones? Not fear, but a strange familiarity, like the world itself is whispering through the silence? I have. And if you've made it this far, maybe you have too. Because this story isn't fiction, it's not entertainment. It's a truth wrapped so deeply in silence that only those with ears trained by suffering and hearts sharpened by solitude will understand. You're not here by accident. None of us are. There are 7 of us. We do not speak aloud. We do not wear armor nor carry swords. We do not post on social media. We exist in the cracks of the world, between the seconds, behind your dreams, beneath the quiet places that make you shiver. But we are not ghosts. We are not myths. We are the silent, dark, chosen ones. And we fight demons, not the ones you see in horror movies, the real ones. The ones that whisper into powerful men's ears, the ones that wrap around your thoughts at 3 a.m. and tell you you're worthless, the ones that feed on fear, hate, and despair like shadows devour the sun.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
We were not born chosen, we were broken first. Every one of us was shattered. Some by war, some by loss, some by betrayal so deep it tore the soul from the body. But in that destruction, something ancient stirred. A calling. One does not choose to fight demons. One is chosen by surviving them. Have you ever survived something that should have destroyed you? Then maybe you're one of us and you just don't know it yet. I remember the first time I saw one. I was 13, alone. My house was silent, too silent. That kind of silence that presses against your skin like cold water. I walked into the kitchen and there it was. Tall, thin, hunched. It didn't move, it didn't speak. But I felt it. Not fear, not evil. Hunger. It was feeding on the grief in that room, the residue of fights, of screams, of tears absorbed into the walls. You see, demons don't always attack. They dwell, they drink, they wait. And that night something inside me snapped. Not in fear, in defiance. I didn't run, I stared back, and the shadow blinked. Then it vanished. That was the first time I realized something. Some people are meant to see the unseen. We don't talk about this because the moment we do, people stop listening. They laugh, they label, but demons love that. They thrive in disbelief. They hide in your trauma, in your addictions, in your self-hate. They are not monsters with claws. They are frequencies, energetic parasites. And only those who've been to the edge of existence can feel their presence. So I ask you this, have you ever heard a voice in your head that wasn't yours, but somehow knew your worst fears, your darkest secrets, your shame? That wasn't your imagination, that was contact. I know this sounds heavy, but this is not a video about fear. It's about power. Because once you see what's real, you can never unsee it. And once you know that demons feed on your pain, you learn to starve them. That's what the 7 have mastered. Each of us was assigned a different type of demon, not by a god, not by a religion, but by resonance. The demon that almost destroyed you is the one you were born to destroy. That's the law. One of us was chosen through fire, literally. He survived an explosion that should have killed him. Another through silence. She spent 3 years in a monastery without speaking a word. One was chosen through madness, locked away for years until he learned to navigate the labyrinth of his mind. We are not superheroes. We are wounded healers. We are what happens when pain meets purpose. You may ask, how do we fight them? Not with weapons, with awareness, with vibration, with presence. Because demons cannot survive pure consciousness. When you are fully present, fully awake, they have no doorway. That's why they keep you distracted. That's why your phone never stops buzzing. That's why your mind races at night. Because if you ever truly sat in silence, you would feel them. And if you feel them, you can face them. And if you face them, they lose. You've been taught to fear the dark. But the truth is, light without shadow is incomplete. We are not beings of just light, we are whole. And the darkness inside you, that grief, that rage, that sorrow, is not your enemy. It's your training ground. It is where you learn the language of demons so you can speak it back to them with authority. I need you to truly understand something. The war is not out there. It's in here. It's inside your thoughts, your choices, your silence. Every time you choose love over judgment, you weaken a demon. Every time you breathe through a panic attack instead of succumbing, you win a battle. Every time you forgive yourself, you reclaim territory. This is not metaphysics. This is war. And you are already enlisted whether you know it or not. So many people are asleep, not because they're lazy, but because they're exhausted from fighting battles they don't understand. That's why we're speaking now. That's why I'm breaking the silence. Because you need to know you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are being called. But the question is, will you answer? What if your anxiety isn't a disorder, but a signal? What if your depression is not a malfunction, but a call to descend into your inner depths and retrieve something sacred? What if your suffering is not punishment, but preparation? Think about that for a moment. Really think. What if everything that tried to destroy you was actually shaping you into a weapon for the divine? There's a reason you're still here, a reason you've survived things others didn't, a reason you feel things more deeply. It's not weakness, it's sensitivity. And sensitivity is the first sign of a warrior, because only those who feel deeply can truly see the unseen. We operate in dreams, in meditations, in the fractured moments between waking and sleep. The seven walk among you, not as saviors, but as reminders. We do not wear robes, we wear scars. We do not chant, we listen. And when the time is right, we act. You've met one of us already, maybe in a chance encounter. A stranger who looked at you as if they knew your soul. Someone who said just the right thing at the right time. A presence you couldn't explain. That was no accident. We are everywhere, and we are watching, not to judge, but to protect, to awaken, to remind. So I leave you with this question. What if the demon you fear is the part of yourself you refuse to face? And what if facing it is the key to unlocking your power? The forgotten war between light and shadow. You felt it, haven't you? That gnawing sense that something invisible is pulling the strings of this world, that the chaos, the division, the numbness, it's not random. That behind the headlines, behind the noise, something ancient is stirring. This is no coincidence. This is the war. Not the kind fought with bullets or bombs, but the war that predates time itself. The war between light and shadow. And the battlefield? Your mind, your energy, your choices. This war is happening every moment you breathe, and most people don't even know they're in it. The 7 know. We've seen the layers beneath the illusion. We've walked through cities and seen the dark tendrils creeping through alleyways of despair. We've stood in boardrooms and felt the energy of greed feeding invisible parasites. We've sat in schools where children's light is dimmed by invisible hands that twist truth into conformity. The enemy is not a person. It's not a politician. It's not a system. It is the shadow that hides in the systems. It is the whisper of doubt that says, stay small, stay afraid, stay asleep. You want to know the truth. The light is not always pure, and the dark is not always evil. The ancient ones knew this. The sun can burn, the night can heal. But the war we fight isn't about good versus evil. It's about truth versus illusion. Because demons don't look like monsters. They look like your inner critic. They look like fame that hollows you out. They look like numbing comfort that keeps you from growth. They look like ideologies that divide hearts and call it righteousness. And so the 7 were chosen not for perfection, but for balance. We are the bridge between the worlds, where light and dark meet and do not destroy each other, but transform. There's a reason we're silent, because in silence we hear, not just the noise of the world, but the deeper harmonics of reality, those subtle frequencies that tell us where the veil is thinning, where the battle is thickest. One of us spends entire weeks in abandoned places where the spiritual residue of suffering is strongest, old asylums, war zones, places where the veil between this world and the next is thinner than breath. Another walks through cities, reading energies like maps, marking spots where the darkness has taken root and must be met with presence, not fear. And how do we fight? With absolute stillness, with breath, with intention so focused it cuts through illusion like a blade. When a demon enters a room, it feeds on chaos, but when a chosen one enters, the energy shifts. Not because of power, in the ego sense, but because of alignment. You see, to fight a demon, you must have nothing left for it to feed on. No fear, no hatred, no false self. That's why our training is brutal. It's not physical, it's spiritual. We are stripped, we are shattered, we are emptied, until only presence remains. You might think that sounds impossible, but let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment, just one, where everything went quiet and you felt an overwhelming peace, like you were being watched by something loving, something vast that was real? That was contact. That was your soul remembering the war. The moment you remember, the moment you awaken, you become a threat to the shadows. Because awareness is a sword and presence is armor. And love, real, grounded, fierce love, is a weapon they cannot touch. But love is not weakness. Love is not passive. Love, when conscious, is the most terrifying force to the dark. Because it cannot be manipulated. It cannot be controlled. And those who wield it with clarity, those who face their own shadows and embrace them, become portals of transformation. They don't cast out demons, they transmute them. They become alchemists of the soul. There is a sacred truth hidden in this war. The demon you defeat becomes the power you wield. The addiction you overcome becomes your medicine. The trauma you integrate becomes your compass. The shadow you embrace becomes your ally, and that is why we do what we do, not to destroy darkness, but to heal the rift between the forgotten parts of ourselves and the light of our origin. So ask yourself now, what shadow inside you have you been afraid to face? And what if, hidden inside that shadow, is the very power you were sent here to awaken? Rankito drug, training in the dark, becoming the weapon. Most people imagine warriors as those who carry weapons, but the deeper truth is this: the most powerful weapon is not something you hold, it's something you become. A blade forged in silence, a presence refined through suffering, a soul sharpened by fire. This is the training of the chosen ones, not in temples, not in dojos, but in the forgotten corners of the world, and more importantly, in the forgotten corners of the self. You don't become a weapon by learning to strike, you become one by learning to see, clearly, ruthlessly, compassionately, with no filter between you and reality. That clarity is what demons fear most. Each of the 7 underwent their awakening in the dark, not metaphorically, literally. Isolation, shadow, silence. One of us was buried in grief after losing everything: family, identity, purpose. For months he wandered through the ruins of his own life until the voices stopped being loud, until he saw what most run from: himself. Another was taken to a remote mountain by an elder who said nothing for 77 days. No instructions, no mantras, just presence, just nature, just her and the silence. And in that silence, something ancient began to speak, not in words, but in knowing. The kind of knowing that can only come when every distraction is burned away. This is the part nobody glamorizes, because it's not pretty. This isn't the hero's journey they sell in books. This is the descent, the dismantling, the spiritual death. You see, to become a weapon, you must first be willing to be nothing, to let go of every identity, every label, every illusion that's kept you safe. That's why most people never awaken, because awakening is not a light switch. It's a fire, and that fire will consume everything false in you. But what remains is indestructible. We don't talk about pain enough in spiritual circles. We talk about love, light, ascension, but real ascension only comes after the descent. The 7 weren't chosen because we were pure. We were chosen because we were willing to descend, to face the inner chaos, to sit in the void without trying to escape. Have you ever sat in the silence long enough for your own thoughts to turn into screams? Have you ever faced the part of yourself that wants to sabotage, destroy, abandon everything good? That's the demon training ground. And that's where we learned the truth. Demons are not here to destroy us, they're here to test us, to reveal what's still unhealed, to expose what's still untrue. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was during a night of total darkness in the desert. No moon, no fire, no sound, just me and the void. And in that void I felt it, the hunger of the demon, but not outside me, inside. The part of me that craved control, approval, power. And in that moment I realized the demon was never separate. It was the shadow of my own unclaimed energy. And when I stopped resisting it, it changed. That's what the world doesn't understand. We don't fight demons by attacking them. We fight them by becoming too whole for them to manipulate. We fight them by reclaiming every fragmented part of ourselves, every wound, every regret, every failure. We gather it all and say, this too is me. This too is sacred. And in that radical self-acceptance, the energy shifts. the demon weakens, the frequency rises. Do you understand now? You don't need to become someone else to defeat darkness. You need to become more of who you truly are. The version of you that's not afraid to be seen, not afraid to be still, not afraid to feel. That's what training in the dark does. It strips you of performance and leaves only presence. And presence is power. So I ask you now, have you trained in your own darkness, or are you still running from it? Because you cannot fight what you will not face, you cannot heal what you deny, and you cannot carry the light until you've made peace with your shadow. The last gate, awakening the Earth Guardian within. There comes a moment in every warrior's path when the battle turns inward for the final time, when the last demon is not outside you, but within, the version of yourself you still cling to, the illusions you still protect, the safety you still crave. This is the last gate, and it is the hardest to cross, because what lies beyond is not comfort, it's not happiness, it's responsibility. The responsibility of becoming a guardian, not just of yourself, but of the earth, of humanity, of the ancient balance between realms. The seven walked through this gate, one by one, and on the other side we were no longer merely survivors. We were no longer healers or fighters. We became keepers of the unseen. And now, the gate opens for you. But here's the truth no one wants to say. The world does not change through force. It changes when people remember who they are. The demons we fight are symptoms of mass forgetting, forgetting of sacredness, of beauty, of connection, of real power. And the role of the chosen ones is not to save the world by fighting every battle, but to serve as living mirrors, to walk with such presence, such inner stillness, that others remember what they forgot. That's how the earth heals, not through domination, but through remembrance. The final initiation is this: you must become the earth, not metaphorically, energetically. You must feel her pulse beneath your feet. You must learn to breathe with her, to listen to her pain, not with guilt, but with reverence. Because the demons do not just attach to people, they attach to places, to wounds in the land, to forgotten temples, desecrated rivers, stolen lands soaked in ancient grief. Every chosen one is bonded to a place, not as an owner, but as a guardian. One watches over a desert where the veil is thin. Another protects a mountain where the old spirits still speak. I walk with the ocean, where the currents speak the language of eternity. You may think this is mystical, abstract, but let me ask you something. Have you ever gone to a place and felt something off, even before you saw anything? That's real. Your body is a sensor, your soul is a compass. The earth speaks to you constantly, but only when your mind is quiet enough to hear. That's why we train in silence, not to escape the world, but to hear it more clearly. Because once you become a guardian, you no longer ask, "What do I want?" You ask, "What does the earth need through me?" And now I ask you, what if your pain, your story, your survival was preparing you to step into that role? What if the reason you've always felt different, sensitive, overwhelmed, is not because you're broken, but because you're tuned in, because you're meant to feel what others cannot, so you can hold what others ignore? The silent, dark chosen ones are not a myth. We are real, and we are not separate from you. We are you, stripped of denial, forged in truth, aligned with purpose. You don't need to wait for a sign. You are the sign. You don't need to find a temple. Your body is the temple. You don't need to wait for permission. You were already chosen the moment you survived what should have destroyed you. So I leave you with this. What if the earth is not just asking you to awaken, but begging you? And what if the war will not end until enough of us remember who we truly are? The last gate is open. The path is before you. Step through. The earth is watching, and the 7 are waiting.